Hello everyone, welcome back to another FPL Jedi Show. This is Deadline Stream for Gameweek 35. My name is Hafiz and I would like to welcome my buddy to the stream. How are you, Azmin? How's
Um,
34 been being for you?
I guess it's I dropped just a bit, but I guess it's massively disappointing in the sense that even though most of my picks did return, it was just a case of other picks returning better. And I'm very annoyed with myself because I should be glad that, because I've always been a big fan of Wolves, and yet somehow I ended up playing the with a free hit, and my starting 11 only had Cunha and players who historically I'm one of the few who tends to have them, Jose Sa and Ryan Aitnouri. I didn't have them in my starting 11. And both of these players scored way better than the others. For example, like my keeper, I had Martinez who did well. It's just that other options did better. So yeah, very disappointing in terms of chip. I think this is the first chip I've used that did not yield me a green arrow. Yeah, I think so far this season, any wild cards of that week or the have given me that green arrow, but not this free hit was relatively disappointing considering the power of the free hit.
All right, man. I think there's a lot of managers who free hitting, same like us. I just want to read out some stat in terms of blank game week 34 cheat split. We can say that more than 1 million managers has activated their free hit chips. And then we have around 309,000. And there are also some managers who decided to captain the triple captain and also bench boost chip, but most of it is the free hitting, and you can see most of the managers who free hitting last week did captain Salah with around 4 million, and the rest maybe not so much in terms of me, but I think pretty much there some fluctuating out of variable in terms of how we free hitting. Those are managing, but I think more or less that whoever free hitting still have some decent points, and the average point was around 47. So if you're scoring around 70, 80, or if they say there's more than 90 or 100 clubs, so I think you should be satisfied, even though you did mention me that your team could have scored more if they say you have your bench players playing in your team. So just take a quick look in terms how we
Yeah.
did last week. I think because we just finished the game with 34 with the Forest against Brentford yesterday night, of which Forest did lose against Brentford 2-0. People FOMO about Mbomo right now, but Mbomo did blank in that game. So pretty much that what happened. But if let's say Mbomo scored, then there'll be some manager who going to benefit from there. I scored 99 points, and you scored around 50 points, if I'm right. But more or
No, no, no.
less, hmm,
No, 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 no. I scored 81 points, Hafiz.
81 points. So I think that's I think this typo last from the last
Previous
few
game
weeks.
week, yeah.
Okay, but the most important thing, uh, despite you are not fully happy with your points, because when comparing the likes of Bowen on your bench, the likes like Jose Sa, right?
Mm,
So I think that's why you pretty much a bit feel a bit disappointed
yeah.
comparing what you are having in your team, the likes of Milenkovic and also maybe Evan Nixon, TAA. Maybe you can just talk through your team first.
Okay, so yeah, so my final score was actually 75 points. Yeah. So
75. Okay.
yeah, so Sanchez, yeah, Sanchez was last quite on the day decide to bring in Sanchez because I just couldn't figure out um which keeper to use. And in the end, I looked at that Chelsea-Everton match, thinking that I think there's a good chance of a clean sheet there, and fortunately that turned out okay. TA was all right, nothing spectacular, and that's where And I have Livramento, who also kept a clean sheet, but of course compared to Trippier. So this is an example. I have Livramento, and one person had Trippier and scoring better. Sanchez, but on my bench I have Jose Sa, so it's a bit more annoying there. So Robinson totally disappeared. There was rumors it was because of that pregnancy, of our partner having a pregnancy, but actually apparently he did have some sort of injury going on, and that's why. And Milankovic came in. Unfortunately, they losing 2-0 to Brentford. Maybe it's the FA Cup hangover. Who knows? But yeah, it was a wrong move then. So Murphy, Iwobi, Salah, Enzo. So as you can see, they all returned. So it's all good in that sense. Yeah, but it's nothing spectacular at the end of the day. Assist, and a goal. And the first game, because I had Enzo and Sanchez, and rightly over those who had Palmer, definitely once again disappointed. I didn't really have any justification because in terms of price, it's not because Enzo was cheaper, because at the end of the day, I could afford Palmer if I wanted to, but it was just a case of taking into account his current form. It's just not good enough. So there's no point in pushing it until we actually see some improvement. And
I
again,
think
we didn't.
On that score, you picking Enzo over Palmer was a good choice. That's all I can say.
So and one thing, I guess Enzo is captain of Chelsea.
Yep.
Apparently. So yeah, and I feel that he has a bit more, drive. But of course, when I basically, in terms of Palmer, I'd only want to pick him if I saw the signs that he's back. And it's not a case of guessing when is he going to be back and picking up before, because I think that the price is too high for us to playing that game. So Evan Nilsson gets an assist against Manchester United, then gets himself sent off, and the points get reduced, and then they appeal for it, and they win. And then the thing is, because with the current FPL rules, is that the points are only finalized at the very end of the last game of the game week. But according to the rules, despite Evan Nilsson's red card being overturned, he would still, they won't add him his points back. But at the end of the Forest match, apparently the first thing, people noticed that Evan Nilsson point assist minus points from the penalty got added back for a short time, for a few minutes. So and I think Andy, Let's Talk FPL, commented on it. He said after saying they weren't going to add in points, they added it back, only for it to disappear again maybe half an hour later. So what a roller coaster. I'm just glad I wasn't awake to see that. I'd be pissed. Cunha, I'm so glad that we both went Cunha, because all that talk about him, maybe Wolves fans don't want to play him, and he may not play, but it shows just play him, because whatever happens, you can see he's fired up. It's not gonna make him play any worse. He's gonna play his heart out, and I think Wolves fans should appreciate that. And at the end of the day, despite the discipline shenanigans, it is thanks to Cunha, a lot to Cunha, that they managed to score goals and kept up the fight. Of course, Pereira and Pereira recognizes this. That's why he continues to play Cunha, even though all these transfer issues that he's having, because Pereira recognizes that he's quality. And in fact, Wolves have now won 6 games in a row, which is an amazing record for the best form record for any team. You can argue about whether they're playing good or bad teams, but at the end of the day, it's still a record. So of course, you mentioned the bench here. So 3 out of 4 of my bench all returned, and the person who didn't return was was the guy who got subbed in, which was Milenkovic. So yeah, so it's a very sourpuss type of week because I did okay, but it could have been so much better.
It kind of like 50-50 call. We can just simply get in the players that we thought that we can score. The likes
Yep,
of TA could easily keep a clean sheet against Spurs. Same
true.
for Forest because we know that their backline is very formidable and can be trusted.
And
And mm,
even just, I mean, another example is which I the call got right, even though it didn't give me a lot of points. Murphy versus Barnes versus Gordon. So Murphy
okay,
was
yep,
still the best play, despite a lot of people thinking Murphy's X minutes is going to suffer because Gordon's back. Maybe Gordon will start. For me, I was never in doubt about Murphy still starting because he's done so well on that right flank. And if
yep.
any issues will in terms of starting will be at that left flank between Gordon and Barnes because neither of them are good players on the right flank. So even though at the end Murphy did get subbed off in the 60 plus minute, but I'm still not worried about his starting status.
Fair.
Just to figure out because you have Trippier and we can lead into your team. So Trippier versus Livramento, and frankly speaking, I was never gonna pick Trippier. It was never in my, so I'm not too disappointed. I accept that I've made that mistake, but yeah, that's something I can live with.
Yep, yep. I think we have different thought because you have your preference. I have my preference. When I'm free hitting, those player that lock in the likes of Trippier, I never doubt about him. I think this is the one that I really want. I would not have him in the normal weeks, so I have Trippier. I also convinced about Nuri. I'm surprised you do not have Nuri in your team. Okay,
Me too.
no, no, two ways about that. I think Cunha is another one. I said also Jacob Murphy. I also leaning to those Liverpool duo, Luis Diaz, Mo Salah. Uh, they really locked into my team. The only contemplating is the Sessegnon thing. I think people still think about him, but there's some doubt whether Wilson going to start or that. But I've decided to stick with him and just leave with that. But instead of that, Robinson missed out. He start on the left back, so people think about maybe his potential will diminish. But in the end, the last minute he scored that goal and then got the all three bonus point.
3 bonus points
And
as well. Yeah,
yeah, and Liverpool, sorry, and Chelsea's kept clean sheet. Sanchez got one save point, and then suddenly from one bonus point to two bonus point on Sunday. So can't say much about that, but it could easily mean Cucurella and Leno. I think that's one more consideration. The Chelsea player, Cucurella, who have more attacking potential over 90 minutes match, and also Leno, who have more potential save point. That could easily turn out be different. If I say pay Cucurella and Leno, I end up with like 7 points over that 20 points. So my backline for that four players gave me 46 points in totality. And
lovely.
yeah, and I never really doubt. I think the other decision I make is Clivert over maybe Palmer or maybe Mbomo. And in the end, it's
Mm.
not much different. Palmer have 1 pointer different more. Mbomo also end up with 2 points because yellow carded. And maybe Raul, I'm thinking whether Evan Nissen. But in the end, it's not that much. But Evan Nissen could easily got that assist and maybe some bonus point if they say he's not been red carded.
He did
I
get the assist.
yeah. So it's gonna be a really small margin. It could turn
Mm.
out to be different. I could easily play TAA over the likes of Sessegnon, but in the end, this decision. And finally, if there's some luck on my side, and I'll take that 99 points, and I can say I never thought that I can move up from that 1 million rank. Now at 689,000,
Nice.
and I rethink what possibility end of season rank I could get. I am now 21 points away from that 500k spot. So maybe I could target that 500k spot at least for the remaining of the weeks. That's what I think right now.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I just have one question though. Would you be able to explain your thought process as to why you went Clivert over Palmer? I'm just curious.
Yeah. So because I thought Palmer are not on form during our stream also, I'm not confident, and the most of I think that Chelsea gonna win that game against everything is maybe 1-0, 2-0
Mm,
at most. It could end up with near or 1-1. And Clivert is because I do feel that Bournemouth could win against Manchester United, who gonna think about the Europa League matches that are coming up, and yes, maybe Bournemouth
mm.
not really excellent form, and Clivert took that penalty and set piece penalty duty on his locker. So I thought of that, but in the end, you know who performed? Bournemouth, who scored that goal? Semenyo again, who had I
Yeah,
had Semenyo from last week.
last week. Yeah,
Yeah, so I never really thought on him, and that could be a missed opportunity, but I never thought of that. Yeah, that's all I can say.
it's a free. It's also the free hit thing where we want to go for players that we
Yeah,
we don't have, and just for that 1 week. So yeah. So for me, it would be players like Enzo or even Iwobi, who I felt that has a
yep,
potential. And I think
yeah,
most of not me, but most of you guys probably had Cunha, who didn't have Cunha before, but now you have him. But of course, your future now is to decide. Is Cunha a player worth bringing
yep,
in now, or not? But yeah, we can discuss that shortly.
yep. I can see some manager who actually captain Cunha that way, who report that 30 points over the likes of Salah, only 16, or the likes of Isaac. I think that's those two popular players who managers decided to captain. Cunha is the fourth most captain last week, around at 186,000. Palmer third,
Ooh, nice.
177K. And Bruno Fernandes, so rather end up on fifth, but I think he end up not. I'm not sure how many times that Bruno. I think maybe a couple of points, right? Mm.
Oh, sweet. Those who
Yeah,
ended up captaining Cunha. I don't know
yeah,
what.
yeah,
I wish I had. It would have been. It makes sense for me.
yeah.
It's as me captaining Cunha. No one would be surprised, but somehow I went for the normal
Yeah.
normal play. So yeah. Well, never
Yep.
mind. No
So
worries.
so our focus now, the last four matches of the season, the final four, or
Yeah.
people mentioned the running, not much game left. So really decided. Can I say we only left four free transfer? And if let's say you took more than that, you need to take some hit if you don't have any transfer to in your spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So those of you who have transfers, it's interesting. So, but we'll talk about that. Yeah.
yeah, if you have some free transfer, you may be in a better position to bring in the player who have that motivation, the clubs that still have something to play, and get rid of that. And we shall see how we can adjust to our team. But before we jump to the team news, I think this is also another big news in terms of people talk about whether there is potentially any double game week coming up, because the FA Cup matches end up with City and also Crystal Palace will play in the FA Cup final, and the Premier League has already announced that there will be no more blank or double game week coming up. There will only be normal weeks, because that Palace and Wolves and Man City Bournemouth matches will now be played in game week 37. And you can see on the right side the revised schedule.
Yeah.
Instead of the 17 May, if I'm right, those weekend, which City and also Palace will play the FA Cup final, they will be moved to the midweek match, which still in the game week 37 period of contact. So, what do you think, man, in terms of are you surprised with this news, or
Not too surprised because we kind of knew that as possibility of them just shifting it to the midweek was always going to be there, and looks like that has happened. But because they shift, also shifting so that there's lack of conflict. So, but The latest I heard earlier today was that they still in discussion. So I don't know what else they're
Right?
discussing. I'll be surprised if there's still any changes. I don't think there will be. They can't possibly keep keep people because it's about matches and people want to go watch. It's not so much FPL issues; it's logistics issues.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they can't delay too much, otherwise they're gonna suffer, and in the end they're gonna lose out on revenue because people don't want to go, that kind of thing. But that aside, now it's really a case of planning, and it kind of a bit of a bummer for those who, like me, have chips to
Yep.
burn somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that is something that we're just going to have to accept that it's and
Yep.
make use of it the best way we can based on whatever fixtures we have left. So for me, I have a triple captaincy. I think you're all out of chips now, Hafiz, right?
Yep. I'm
Yeah.
up.
So yeah, I mean, I just have to deal with it. There are some good uh potential matches coming out, and we all know that game week 38 is the potential to blow up in terms of goals.
Yep.
The challenge is, of course, finding that right person to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think there's worry. Although you will definitely jump on if there's any potential double game week coming up, but it is not meant to be. And you could actually play your cards right. 38 could be another potential, or any game weeks that you feel that you can triple captain any players. There will be interesting decision that you will be making for the next 4 weeks. And other manager who still have wildcard, I think this could be the last week that you should do it, 35, and plan for the next 4 game weeks. And if let's say you have other chips left, the like bench boost and so on, I think you need to plan on that. But if you still have AM chip, I think this could be the last straw, 35, 36, 37, or maybe the next week will be the last one. Right.
Yeah, I think that the people with the AM chips are going to be the more frustrated in terms of because early on we saw a lot of AM chips being activated during the double game weeks. Two double game weeks in a row, for example. So that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. So, but yeah, I mean the only way to deal with it is to still look for those matchups with table bonuses. Yeah, and it is there, especially towards the end where all the rotation starts. You just need to really go through the team news that I see and decide which teams are gonna give a chance to their academy players to shine, because we've seen that happen before. Yeah, so good luck in figuring that out. Of course, at the end of the day, we have to rely on some press conferences, so those press conferences are going to be even more important than ever, because we've seen that some managers will actually mention by name, we're going to give these guys a start, we're going to give this guy a start, and or even we're going to rest these people, but even when you say even when they say we're going to give these players a start, it will give you probably won't pick these players, but it will give you an idea of who won't start. So
Mhm.
that's something you need to monitor and track. Yeah. So I know we're all excited towards the end, but we still have to be careful because we still want to feel 11 players. We still want to play complete
Yeah.
squads in each of our game weeks.
All right, fair enough. I also want to take this opportunity. Min, Liverpool has finally won last game week and is now the Premier League winner for 24-25. So good, congrats to you and also Liverpool.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
but I think the most important thing is now what will happen for the next 4 game weeks. I think Slot already mentioned something in his presser. I think we'll run through that because we are thinking what's the motivation now for those
Yep.
Liverpool players who still have him, right? All right. Let's jump to the game week 35 fixture quickly before we run through the team news. Who's playing who this week? We can mention that the early kickoff will be on the Friday night, which is why we are streaming right now because Man City will play Wolf at 3 a.m. Malaysian time. So there are people scrambling whether there are some team leagues that we can depend to and also decide in terms of our team. Then on Saturday, we have 3 matches, the Aston Villa versus Fulham. Both teams still have European aspiration that they can chase.
Yes.
Villa for the Champions League, Fulham maybe somewhere in the Europa Conference League spot. Then we have Everton versus Ipswich. Ipswich has been relegated from last week. Can matches Everton are pretty safe, but they still want to perform uh, better in terms of in front of their crowd. We have the two promoted sides, or now the relegated sides, Leicester and Southampton, are playing each other. That could be an interesting one. You're thinking any of those assets. And then on Saturday midnight, Arsenal versus Bournemouth. Arsenal focus will definitely on the Champions League. They lost 1-0 to PSG. I'm not sure how their team will line up, but Bournemouth still in the mix for the European spots. We have then on Sunday, Brentford versus Manchester United. I think Thomas friend did mention they potentially now could have a chance for European places after that win against Forest. Pretty tight in the table right now. Manchester United focus will definitely on the semi-final Europa League. They won 3-0 against Atletico Bilbao. But we shall see how the lineup will be. Brighton versus Newcastle. Newcastle still have motivation in terms of finishing the top 5. Brighton, tough in terms of spot, but still they have chance. West Ham versus Spurs. Spurs, their mind now in the Europa League semi-finals against Bordeaux, 3-1 win. And then Chelsea versus Liverpool. I think this is the biggest match. Liverpool might not have so much thinking in terms of because they already win the Premier League, but Chelsea still won 3 points from this game. But it's going to be a tough, regardless, Slot will definitely feel a strong team against Chelsea. And then we end up on Monday night, the FA Cup finalists Palace against Nottingham Forest, who now are really on the downside in terms of form, and their Champions League aspiration are beginning waning. So I think that's the context for this week. Min, what matches interest you?
I I mean, when you look at Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest, you got one team who has nothing to play for in the league, Crystal Palace, and then you have Nottingham Forest who are still trying to fight for something. But at the same time, we saw last night Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. Nottingham Forest still, of course, they fresh after losing, crashing out of the FA Cup, but they still have something to fight for, which is the league position to get the Champions League spot. And they played against Brentford, who have it's almost impossible for them to get into Europe. So they really have nothing to play for. They're like 11 or 12 at the moment. But we saw Brentford go all out. So and really pushed Forest all the way and ended up scoring 2 goals. Of course, Mbuemo blank, but that's not the point. At the end of the day, we can't just simply assume that players with teams with nothing to play for aren't going to do well, and we've seen it with we have seen it with teams like Everton, we've seen it with teams like Brighton, but at the same time there are teams like Brentford who buck that trend, and so we need to really see with the how big of a factor this is. And even play teams with something to play for, Nottingham Forest, they still managed to lose against Brentford, who had nothing to play for. So we need to assess each individual with its merits and decide. So the few matchups that have something, you got that City versus Wolves, City fighting for the Champions League spot, Aston Villa versus Fulham fighting for a European spot. Then even Arsenal versus Bournemouth, they want to make. I mean, you could argue they've got the CL spot already, but are they just going to let everything go past? Maybe this week, because they have the Champions League second leg where they need to go all out. Then you have Brighton versus Newcastle. Newcastle are really gunning for it after they just shock lost by Aston Villa. Then they bounce back with that win against Ipswich. They're still gonna want that win. And then you have West Ham versus Spurs. So Brentford versus Manchester United, West Ham versus Spurs has been a lot of talk about it during this week in the past few days, because United and Spurs are both in the semi-finals of the Europa League and they are both in good position. They are currently in good positions to win that match and face off against each other in Europa League, all Premier League final if that's possible. So the current trend is that the current theme is that Brentford and West Ham, and by virtue of those two teams, you've got Mbuemo and Bowen, all tipped to do well against Manchester United and Spurs, who will most likely play reserve teams. Yeah. And we did see that with Manchester United against Bournemouth the other day, but it was not as weak as we thought it was. And I know it took Evan Nilsson getting sent off for Manchester United to secure a point, but they did. All I'm saying is that they didn't just fold. They didn't just like they did still give a fight, and a weakened team that still had players like Bruno Fernandes in there. Yeah, so that's something. The thing with Manchester United and Spurs is that because they play on Thursday, so there's still enough rest, so they may not play as weak teams, and there's also the argument of maintaining momentum. Yeah, so they may play out a weakened team for this one, but winning these matches will still help that momentum.
All right, let's jump to the team news. We start off first with Man City versus Wolves, the early kickoff for this Friday night. And we can see some duo players from Man City who have been mentioned by Pep in terms of back in team training. So what the latest news for both teams mean?
Yeah, so during the week we saw that there was a lot of hype about Haaland, and he had joined training and he's looking great. Only for the press conference where Pep saying that he doesn't think that Haaland will play tomorrow. Do we take him at face value, what he says? Well, I don't trust him. I think Haaland will be on the bench. I honestly think Haaland will be on the bench. Will this hurt those who with Marmoush? No, I don't think so. You might also still play Marmoush. No reason to not. He will still start. The question is whether or not Marmoush will do well. So Wolves are the best informed team at the moment, but there's all this argument saying that they didn't play really strong teams. I refuse to subscribe to that argument. I'm a Wolves I'm a Wolves buyer this season. It's almost my second team Wolves. So so now we got a question. City has something to fight for. Wolves have nothing to fight for. They save from relegation and they're strong. Does this mean Wolves are going to capitulate? No, I don't think so. Which is why you may have your Marmoushes, but I don't see you captaining them. There's no reason for you to captain. This is not an easy matchup. Do not underestimate Wolves. I do feel there's a lot out there that Marmoushes should be easy win. Of course, and on the fact that we got the promoted teams playing each other. Leicester versus Southampton are playing each other. At the same, and the other promoted team is playing Everton, who you don't want to captain an Everton player, it's just not there. Yeah, but for me, you feel your Marmoushes, don't captain.
All right, fair. I think the early Haaland back in training. Maybe he won't start, but he could be on the bench. But there's also a question in terms of Man City players, the likes of KDB, who did not start in the FA Cup. I think now Pep clearly mentioned about his focus on the league to secure that Champions League spot. I can see that KDB gonna come back to this team and starts in the Premier League matches. And probably on the FA Cup one, he could rest this player because the most, if you win the FA Cup, you're going to secure only the Europa League spot, and the focus now is for Pep is to getting into the Champions League spot. I think that's what his focus is, and those could be the one that you should.
I agree. I mean, he needs to balance out because I think he'll want to win the FA Cup so that he has a trophy, but it's not at the sacrificing that Champions League spot. The Champions League spot is still a priority. I just wanted to point out that earlier, a couple hours ago, there was this hoo-ha about Fabrizio Romano, that agent, saying that KDB should be okay to start on the bench. He tweeted something along those lines, only for him to delete the tweet,
Oh,
to be
oh,
deleted, which kind of, and the popular theory is that City hierarchy, the City top gun scolded him for that
oh,
tweet. Why are you giving away this information? And yeah,
oh.
but this should be
Is
a
there,
worry for those.
is there any that indication that KDB gonna be rested this game?
But I don't know. Yeah, but so the question is that for real, or is that
Mm.
some gamesmanship by City as well? You know, and then we all need to see KDB start. But yeah, but just felt to throw that out there so that you can
Yep.
come to your own conclusions.
There'll be another 1 hour to think about this thing because the deadline will be at 1:30 a.m.
It's so close.
Yeah. Let's go to the next
Move
team
on.
news,
Let's move on.
which is Aston Villa versus Fulham. I think, like we mentioned, both teams have something to play in the Europa League, European competition.
Yeah.
So, but there's a big news in terms of Marcus Rashford from Aston Villa, and also we want to look at the Anton Robinson situation. So, what's the latest news, man?
So the best news for me anyway is Marcus Rashford being out of game week 35, and looks like maybe game week 36 and 37 is most likely hardly to happen. Maybe game week, but one or two matches. If I remember correctly, Aston Villa played Manchester United in the last game week, so I would say so he's definitely out. So it's good news for me because remember I'm one of Watkins owners, and looks like I just don't have any more threat for that. So I'm very, very happy. I'm sorry, Rashford. Get well soon. Just take your time also can, no problem. Then you have Fulham, and also good news for me. Robinson is back. I don't have Robinson anymore, but because it was just a free hit.
Yes.
But Moon is out along with Nielsen, so I don't know if people, because I know a lot of people had also went for Raul Jimenez during the free hit, but they're probably not in their named teams as well. So now the question is, what's in it for these two teams? So Aston Villa is still within a shot of the
Yep.
Champions League. They can't give up because if you remember, there's now five spots, and they are only 3 spots behind Chelsea, who are in 5th. Yeah, three points. Yeah, Fulham are 9 points away, so Champions League is probably out. But of course, they'll still want to get you the Europe spot. So Europe spot is definitely available, and also reminding that you have the 2 Europa. You could potentially have it cascading down, because if assuming City win the FA Cup, which guarantees a Europe spot, then that extra spot will cascade down. Yeah, so that's another thing to think about. So they have everything to fight for, and we've seen with these two teams, they will fight. So yeah, that is something that I don't see a issue.
Yeah. So I guess those in terms of Fulham, anything you want to mention?
Yeah, for Fulham, they will fight, but I think Aston Villa just has the stronger manager and the stronger team overall. Let's Aston Villa, even though Rashford's what's his name, Asensio, who I feel is quality despite his missed penalties. I think he will do well here. And of course, a lot of us, those of you who still have Rodgers, for example, now they're out of the CL, they'll aim at securing that CL spot. So for me, it's a win to Villa.
Yeah, I think another news is Muniz still out, and probably he'll be out for the season. And if let's say you think about Raul Jimenez, his minutes should be more secure, at least for the next 4 game weeks. You're thinking, because Fulham still fighting for European places, but this match is gonna be interesting on Saturday night, early kickoff somewhere. All right,
Yeah.
let's go next match. Everton versus Ipswich. All attention to those Everton assets, because the prediction is Everton going to win this game anyway. So what's relative?
So we know that DCL has trained this week. So but off the bench help, of course, We got Proja, who is available, and as well as Beto, who has been poor after some nice ignition when he first started coming into the starting 11. Having said that, Everton are in relatively poor form ever since they secured safety. They've just, one of those teams that not able to. To be fair, they've had really tough matches as well. So, got to give credit to David Moyes still. Ipswich, who confirmed the relegation last week. So manager is still there. He's still the same manager. Unlike Southampton who and Leicester, his McKenna has lasted the whole season. I guess it's a case of what will Ipswich Town do? And the fact that they got their both fullbacks banned now, and I feel the squad is in a bit of flux. And I think you could argue that they're gonna play free flow and be able to do well. I don't think so. I think Everton's professionalism will win them the game. If you remember Everton, who have some injuries. For example, who's my guy?
Tarkowski.
Tarkowski is out, and although Keane was bad, but they found a solution and not play Keane. They moved O'Brien to center, and they put Nathan Patterson as the right back. Although theoretically, Ashley Young could come in as well. They could tweak. I would like to see McNeil get back into the starting lineup after coming off the bench for the few times. But the other guy, I can't remember that French that midfielder who I had for a short while. What was his name?
Oh, Lindstrom, is it?
Lindstrom, yeah. I mean, he's had surgery, so he's off for the season as well. I know D-Lab is always that threat, but I just feel that this match is too much for Ipswich. I think it's going to be a nice, solid, low 1-0 win for Everton.
All right. Let's go to the next match. I think maybe not so much interest to FPL players to invest for these two teams, but there's also some sentimental thinking about getting Vardy for the last 4 matches. So I'm not sure on that. But what's the latest news for both teams?
Yeah, so now the latest with Leicester, now even the keeper is out for the rest of the season. So they're going to change keeper. So that is given how bad they've been, could this Stolasik, I don't know how to pronounce his name, be an upgrade? I doubt it, Then you got the most underused player for Leicester under RVN's reign, which is Facundo Buonanotte, quality player, but Van Nistelrooy just couldn't figure out how to use him, which is very, very disappointing. Also, Mrs. Pereira, who's been out for most of the season anyway, he's out as well. But we've seen just how bad Leicester have been, and it's affected Vardy as well. So Vardy, after coming out with that statement about how bad, how embarrassing Leicester has been, that the very next match he plays and he ends up getting a penalty and missing the penalty. So it just goes to show, just how bad Leicester are. And I'm sorry, but you want to go nostalgia, don't. It's not worth it. So because if you pick up Vardy now, remember you're gonna have to keep him for the rest of the season. Are you just gonna, or sell him back? So you're gonna waste a transfer just to kick him off. So just one match, it just doesn't feel worth it. Because at the same time, at the moment, even though Southampton are the worst, but at the moment Southampton are just still much better than Leicester. They show a bit more signs of potential, and unlike Leicester, they have actually scored. No, Raka FPL, no last Vardy party. It's going to be a miserable party if you go for it. So please don't do it. So Southampton have just been better in the sense that they have scored. Last week against Fulham, they scored. For example, so against West Ham the week before, game week 32, they scored. In game week 32, they blanked. Yeah, and against Spurs, game week 31, they scored. Contrasted to Leicester against Palace the week before, they scored. So contrasted to Leicester, who can't seem to score. So no, I think against Southampton will score, and I actually think even though Southampton have ended up losing another manager, now they got their reserve manager, but Southampton will score. So I actually predict a Southampton win and Leicester to not score again, even at home.
Right.
Just quick one. Sorry, just a quick one injury list. So on Onuachu, who wasn't able to play, so now he looks like he's available, and he could lead the line as well. But I'm gonna punt for you and say Manuel Fernandez will score this one.
Ooh. Okay, pretty much there is the team news for Leicester and Southampton. Let's go to the next match. I think this one important news that people are looking at, whether Arteta has given any hint about Saka starting, because I think this is one of the dilemma for this week. So what's later news for both teams?
So this one, so you got Ben White, Mikel Merino playing, and then midweek against in the Champions League. So Jorginho cover out. Neto, why were we including him? It's not like he plays anyway. The first choice keeper is not going to give way for any of the games. Havertz, yeah, sure, why not? So the biggest question here is Saka going to start? For those of us who have him, I picked him up on the wildcard. He has given me 1 pointer since, featuring as a sub, almost looking like scoring, but not. So the question now is he going to play this match? So bearing in mind that he plays on Saturday, the last match of Saturday, and so theoretically they have 3 full days of rest before they play PSG. But of course, when they play PSG, it's at PSG, so it's not at the Emirates, is it? And they are.
Arsenal lost at home.
Yeah, they lost at home, so they're going to have to go to PSG.
Yes.
For the second. Yeah, exactly. So they have 3 days for a rest, but of course part of it will be traveling, not that far lah. To be fair, it's only France, but still. So the popular theory right now is Saka won't start. Yeah,
I think so. Why you want to play Saka, right?
Yes, I'm for that as well. I think Saka won't start, but the chance of him coming on is there. I think that Bournemouth are going to score, and I don't think with Bournemouth scoring and Arsenal not being able to score, I think Arteta will get Saka to come in at some point because you don't want a loss leading into the PSG match. You want some momentum. I think Arteta appreciates that. Yeah. So if Saka needs to come in because Arsenal is losing, which I think will happen, then Saka will come in.
All right. So I think for Bournemouth, I think the great news is Evan Nilsson rescinded his red card and he should be able to play this game.
Yep. So I'm tipping Evan Nilsson to score this one. Bournemouth, who they have an outside chance of getting into the Europe as well, but they're pretty far off. They're currently in 10th. Yeah, but it is still mathematically possible, so they're still going to look at getting there. So let's see. So it'll be a good game, this one.
Yep. The Arsenal versus Bournemouth, I think I already know when decided the move whether to get in Saka in Gameweek 33 double. I think this is the headache that people are going to have now. If they say you have Saka, to bench him, to play him, or to take him out for other players. I think this is the dilemma that I think you should handle this week, depending on how your guys will tell. Okay. Next game is Brentford versus Manchester United. A lot of FOMO for Brentford player this week, particularly Mr. Mbomo, who did blank against Forest yesterday. So what's the latest news for both teams?
Right. So Brentford just fresh off whacking Forest, demoralized Forest 2-0. No issues. So your beautiful Mbeuemos and Wisas, for those of you who still haven't, don't worry. They're prompt. They were good. And this match is on a Sunday, so they have a bit more rest there. Then so in terms of significant, there's nothing significant. There's no significant issues for Brentford really, except Carvalho, who Liverpool, my former Liverpool player, but he tried to break in but failed. So it's going to be as is for Brentford. For United, focus is more on saving players and trying to be competitive. So that pretty much means, screw the league. Let's focus on the Europa League. But we did see that, he still tried to make it competitive against Bournemouth time out. So Masri rule out is quite significant, actually. But yeah. Then you have Ahmad Diallo, he of the random hat trick coming back to the squad. So I'm looking out for him, want to see what happens. And there's a possibility of him playing is definitely good. Having said that, for Manchester United, feel like they're sitting ducks in this one against Brentford. Yeah, because they're just going to be. I do feel they're going to be distracted and are going to.
They will play second fiddle, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean they may play the first squad, but the first squad also will probably be a bit more tentative. Bruno Fernandes will play, and he's not good. They're not good. For example, someone like Bruno Fernandes, he's not gonna if there's a Brentford breakaway and he's in a position to tackle the guy running off with the ball, he's not gonna do it. Yeah, because there's a risk of him getting injured and that kind of thing. So I just think that is too much for Manchester United this one. So Brentford win.
Yep, I think. But Manchester United are comfortable win 3-0 away. Yeah. And they're coming with that 3-goal advantage at home. So they
Yes,
pretty much should be comfortable. But I think their eyes
that's
will
true.
definitely on that game. So I don't know how Amorim will decide. But I think Amorim has mentioned the priority now is the Europa League and getting to the Champions League spot. And not on the league. So I think he already mentioned that.
Yep. European
Okay.
League is just the ticket to stay in Europe, so they need to win. Yeah.
Next game, Brighton versus Newcastle. I think this pretty much also interesting match. Because Newcastle are fighting for it, but Brighton maybe they had some slight chance getting those European spots. So what's the latest for both teams?
So you got Brighton, Van Heck back. So he had that concussion head injury issue. So then you have Webster back in training for feature with expected to play. So that means not now. Biggest problem is of course Pedro is suspended. Mitoma's good to go, so he's fine. Lamptey and Bateman also playing there, so they're okay. So the question with Brighton is where are their heads at the moment? So they did actually win last time out against West Ham. They did actually win 3-2. Yeah,
Yep.
but they are conceding goals plentiful. So last week they 3-2. Then
Yep.
The week before they lost 4-2 to Brighton, and then the week before that,
Brentford.
Brentford. Sorry, Brighton lost to Brentford, and the week the week before. Just now, remember I was saying that Leicester hardly scored. They haven't scored. They've only scored once in ages. So that one time they actually scored and they scored 2 goals was against Brighton in game week 32. After 0-0, no goal against Brighton. They managed to score 2 goals. After that, they blank again. So which goes to show Brighton's defense is I don't know where it's at. Of course, then Crystal Palace.
In other words, you're gonna mention about this could be a high scoring game.
Yeah, that's right. So coming back to Newcastle, which is the problem because I don't have Isaac, so it's really, really very, very frustrating for me looking at this because I do feel it will do well. Let's not forget Newcastle are also chasing to secure the Champions League spot, and I know at the back of Newcastle players' mind is could we overtake Arsenal? Yeah, it's still 5 points away, still possible, but if let's say Arsenal drop points against Bournemouth, they play first on Saturday. Newcastle are gonna look at that, tasty, So that there's definitely motivation there, and I'm so frustrated that I don't have Isaac that I'm contemplating taking a hit to get him in, but I feel it's too much. Yeah, but yeah, Isaac will do well here, and Brighton's gonna lose.
All right. Okay. Pretty much Brighton versus Newcastle. So what's next is West Ham versus Spurs. As we mentioned, West Ham did lost painfully last week against Brighton. I think Potter during the post conference are not happy with the loss, and the Spurs at the same time have one eye in the semi-final second leg. So what's the latter news for both teams?
Yeah, so no biggies with West Ham. Of course, Evan Ferguson is available again. He's going to play against Brighton, but he hasn't done well anyway, even under his former boss Graham Potter. Somerville's out. Bowen, your key player Bowen is going to play. Kudus could play as well. Kudus has been disappointing this season. We thought he would score more goals. So I think the talent is there. It's just not being played right. So Spurs. So Lucas Bergval's season over. Solanke, who made the mistake of scoring against Liverpool being first. So he had a knock, but it's unlikely that he'll play. Madison needs a scan on his knee. So you see a bit of this clear risk there. And of course, Spurs hold technically theoretically comfortable first leg lead, which is 3-1. It should have been 3-0 only for them to do what Spurs do and concede towards the end. But it does mean that they may put in, they may not be focused 100%. Let's focus that, and let's not forget Postecoglou still wants to live up to his name of winning something in the second season of his management. Having said that, just now we talked about Brentford versus Manchester. I think Manchester United trashed. I don't see that happening for Spurs getting trashed by West Ham, which leads me to conclude that if you were to have to choose between Mbeumo and Bowen, I go for Mbeumo. It's just that the attacking style of Brentford is much suited for FPL, and you could pick both, but Bowen will not score as much as Mbeumo, but yeah, it's still a decent pick.
All right, fair. West Ham versus Spurs. We shall see the market odds for these matches. What else in store? Chelsea versus Liverpool. Chelsea needing 3 points to just make sure they gain European Champions League spot. But Liverpool, I think, interesting in terms of slot. Comment on rotation. I think that's one you can touch a bit in terms of the team news.
Yeah, so they did really well in the Europa Conference match. So the question is, how are they going to rotate? Yeah, but to be fair, the match, the Europa Conference is always on the Thursday. Okay, so you got 4 goals. They leading 4 goals to 1. The good thing with that match is that Jackson, who scored during the weekend, continued his good form of scoring. He's now scored 2. He scored 2 goals in midweek as well, so that's great. Surprise, or not too surprised. Who's that guy? Palmer didn't score again. Yeah, so again, another 4-1 win, although he didn't start. Yeah, so that's the difference. Yeah, he didn't start. He was on the bench. Yeah, he came off the bench. So, which seems to give me idea that he will start this one. So, no big thing, the biggest injury issue is Sanchez after missing, but since he's been in training, I expect him back, and he did a good job against Everton. Nkunku, who cares, right? He's okay. So then you have Liverpool. So Bradley set to return to the squad. So now we're not slot the most dangerous statement. We're not going to change everyone, but there will be a few players that come into the team. There will be a certain rotation in upcoming games. So for this, you have to look at. Yeah, so for this, you got to look at players, and I haven't really analyzed this, and it's not that we're going to pick them anyway, but players like Chiesa or even Harvey Elliott, because for them, I'm not sure whether they qualify for a medal yet, so that's definitely going to be in consideration, because to qualify for the winners' medal, you need to play for a certain amount of matches. Yeah, so I do think that Chiesa will get the start. Maybe even Nunes gets the start.
Yeah.
So Conor Bradley set to return squad, it does cast out over those, over TAA. It's possible that TAA might not start. It is possible, I think. But I'm very confident and quite certain that Salah will start. Salah is just that he's one guy who takes care of himself very well in terms of his fitness, in terms of injuries. He doesn't get injured very well, and I think he'll want to continue and rack up the goals and continue his form. So yeah, that's it. But of course, I wouldn't recommend picking up Diaz or Gakpo. It's all risk. Jota. No, if you were to if you were to ask me between Diaz, Gakpo, Jota, and Nunes, I would pick Gakpo, but it's just too risky for me. So in this match, the question is, you got Chelsea you are chasing after anything, then you have Liverpool who theoretically some people say that they are gonna be having too much to drink and blah blah, but we know Arne Slot, he's not gonna let this kind of discipline slack. And then we've seen him this
Chelsea gonna give a guard of honor in this game, so Liverpool pretty much should be up for this challenge. Despite whatever Chelsea need, I think Liverpool, if they have chance to win, they will do it. So
I think Liverpool will win this one. I think Chelsea against the lesser sides is good, but against Liverpool, it's just not the same level.
All right, I think we are looking forward how the slot lineup will be, and then because we're going to discuss that next week, if there is any concern, especially if they say Salah is not playing 90 minutes, I think that can be a question if let's say that happened. Last but not least, man, Crystal Palace versus Forest. I do not have Forest team news from Nuno, but I think Glasner did mention about there's no concern in terms of injury.
So Glasner, no fresh concerns, so they pretty much okay. No changes. The second paragraph is pretty irrelevant, really. So the question is, are Crystal Palace going to put their foot off the pedal? I don't think so, because they still have momentum, and it's still a while before the FA Cup final match against City. So against Forest, so now Nuno has to motivate the squad again. So it's clear against Brentford there was a bit of demotivation, especially considering they played at home against Brentford and they lost. So Nuno has to really pick up that squad because the Champions League opportunity is starting to look risk at the moment. They have dropped. They are now at 6th position, and they don't have the best GD again. Chelsea they've lost. They definitely not. Yeah. So Nuno needs to give that squad a lift. So it could be a tough game after they lost. It's hard to call this one. And I tried. I wanted to have time because we had a mutual friend who's a big fan of Forest, Wolf. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not able. Wanted to get his thoughts. But I think whatever result this is, it's going to be a close one.
All right, we already wrap up in terms of team news. Let's go to transfer traffic for this week quickly before we go to our team. Top transfer for this week. There's, like we mentioned, a lot of FOMO.
Oh, there's that curse.
FOMO. He's the most top transfer player for this week. I think this is a snapshot at 11:15 p.m. Malaysian time just now. But I feel Momo continue to pick up owners for this game with 35. Second is Bowen. I think Momo and Bowen. Why? It's because those feature that having for the next 4 is nice. I think we can take quick look at that fixture ticker later before we run through our team. Wisa also, he scored 7 points against Forest midweek. So Wisa is here, and Brentford has excellent matches. Guardiol, I'm surprised. I think continue to pick up point. Is it something from a goal in the FA Cup semi-final that triggered this? It could be. That's why Guardiol in here. And then Mamush, in the top five transfer traffic. Who are going out this week? I think no surprise, Saka. Like for like, Mbomo for Saka. Saka with matches Champions League against PSG. Saka might not play. Probability in game week 36 also his minute will be managed. That's why he's out. Palmer off form, second most transfer out this week, around 173,000. Rashford out for the season, no surprise in third. Mateta could be to make way for Visa. That's why this transfer trap out is here. And Robinson, because he missed out last game week, I think that could be the trigger for this traffic. So what's your thought, mate, in terms of this transfer traffic?
I'm I get that you're selling Saka to make place for Wemo and Bowen.
Yeah.
I just feel that Saka. For those who don't have Saka, it's fine, but for those who do have him, you just feel that okay, they play Liverpool after this match. They will play Liverpool, Newcastle, and Southampton. Yeah, so not to say it's hard, not to say it's easy matches. Liverpool again, you got that narrative of Liverpool have nothing to play for, but I think they'll try to spoil Arsenal. What I will try to say is this: I'm predicting Arsenal get knocked out this midweek out of the Champions League. So I will want Saka for the rest of the season, and I think that one thing they need to secure, because I think they're going to drop points against Bournemouth this weekend. So I think they need to salvage and at least look good and not be overtaken by Newcastle. So I think Saka will play for the rest of the season, and which is why I'm loath to sell him out. Palmer, fine. God, you guys, why you should have been sold out ages ago. I'm quite disappointed, so many of you. Rashford, of course, the injury. Mateta. So Mateta being sold is interesting. So just now we were talking about Crystal Palace, Forest, and it's still early. The FA Cup final is still a while away, but people are already preparing and have sold Mateta. Robinson, of course, because he was absent. In terms of the transfers there's no real surprises, I guess. Mbeumo Bowen, you mentioned it earlier. Wissa is the best, and I wouldn't be surprised if Wissa turns out to be the best pick. It's just that we don't have space in that front end. Marmoush, fifth. The fact that Marmoush isn't all the way at the top, much higher, it just shows you how much people respect Wolves a bit more now. So it's a bit harder. Yeah. And the fact that Mbuemo's transfers in is more than double the second guy, Bowen. So 480,000 versus 200,000. It just shows how low people think of Manchester United right now. So yeah, I definitely subscribe to that as well. Mbuemo looks good.
All right. I think this is the feeling right now. But Azmin, they mentioned be cautious on Saka. I think we can see some managers also decided to bench Saka this week because they feel we might need him for the running for the last 2 or 3 game weeks. I think that could be potentially what you do. But if it's okay, you don't have any money, you want to downgrade Saka to Mbeumo, and you feel Mbeumo could be, I think he is one of the potential captaincy pick this week. I think that could be what is playing in mind for those players. Let's jump to the market odds for this game week. Projected goals and clean sheet odds from Rob T FPL. You can see here among the top, I think, is Man City with 2.40 goals against Wolves. The highest among these matches. And then Brentford 2.05 against Manchester United. Other than that, 1.9 Everton against Ipswich. Then Villa against Fulham 1.85. And the rest around that 1.8, 1.7. Percentage in keeping clean sheet this week, highest is Everton. I think that could be true. 44% against Ipswich. At home, some more they are really formidable. And the next one, Man City against Wolves. So could Man City keep a clean sheet against informed Wolves? It's going to be tough, but this is what the prediction market is. Then after that, lock in third place, 32% Arsenal. Also Brentford keeping clean sheet, and Villa against Fulham. This is the market prediction for this week, Min. What's your say?
Well, I'll just quickly address the Villa Brentford. Yeah, so 32% CS and 1.85, 2.05. I guess it's about there. Brentford 2.5 should be higher, I think. I do think that they're gonna whack Manchester United. We look at the West Ham is lower, 1.75. Okay, so those are the secondary. I want to go back to for the top percentages. One is for the CS Everton. I fully agree to that, 44%. I guess Ipswich without Leif Davis as a creator is just going to suffer. And then now they've lost Ben Johnson as well at fullback, so it's going to be a lot of makeshift and tinkering. And Everton, I do feel Moyes is going to... They're at home. They need to make it happy for their fans after a really disappointing run of late. 7 or 8 matches, very disappointing, where they've only picked up a few points. And I think this is the one where they'll secure that victory and most likely will clean sheet as well. All right, so moving to the City stats, 2.4 and 42%. I think you know what I'm going to say, and this is absolutely bollocks. This is rubbish. The underestimation of Wolves is ridiculous. You've got Cunha, who, don't forget that Cunha is still auditioning to go to a much better club. So you think he's going to be sitting down and just be starved of service? And I think they are really underestimating the impact of what Vitor Pereira has done for Wolves. That team is on the up. They're really hyped. They pumped. They're not going to approach this match like it's on the beach. They're going to act as spoilers. They're going to try to spoil City's party. So I do think this is going to be a much closer match than it's credited for. And definitely Wolves will score goals. City, City are still not at full strength. They don't have a Haaland. Haaland's not back yet. And if what Romero claims is true, KDB is going to be on the bench. So where's the power coming from? Who is this? If KDB is on the bench, Haaland's not playing. You got Marmoush, Foden, who is here and there, whereabouts. Bernardo Silva, Gundogan. Where? What's this? Where is this coming from? Savinho. I don't get it, and I don't agree with it at all. And for Wolves to have such a low under 1 second, when you look at it, it's Wolves based on this stat. Wolves have the second lowest goal scoring odds after Ipswich. Given how much Wolves have done well in the past few, but they've got the rating as scoring Leicester. Have City's defense really improved that much? I don't think so. Yeah, it's still of course Diaz back, it helps, but I don't. So I totally don't agree with that, and I expect that to be a high scoring match with goals scored both by Wolves and City.
All right, let's take a look at top projected scorer this week. I think we left 15 minutes before deadline, so quickly.
Oh yeah.
Captaincy pick for this week. The highest now is Mr. Mamouche against Wolves, because aligned back to what the prediction just now, 2.4, I feel. And Man City is the top highest team to score these big points this week. And Mamouche should be on the top with 0.69. And then Watkins second, Fulham, alongside Isaac. These are the potentially, but both... Isaac playing away, but Watkins are playing at home against Fulham. But could be a tough match also on paper. Broja against Ipswich. It's going to be tough whether Broja going to start. Okay. Everton because Ipswich. Then Vardy. Wow. Like you mentioned, sentimental feeling about against at home Southampton. Bomo and Wissa slightly down there, 0.47. Then Palmer. Salah really also down there at 0.43, and the rest maybe not so much. What do you think, if you're not favor about Mamouche, who will be your captain this week?
Well, we can see my team, but of course later. But there's a good argument that can be made for Watkins. Aston Villa is a stronger team. They don't have any distraction anymore after getting knocked out, but they will be focused on getting that CL spot. So So Watkins is definitely a good option. And Isaac is a great option as well. Again, Newcastle are really chasing, and Brighton are, I don't know what they're doing in terms of that defense. It's just everywhere. So Isaac, the only problem with Isaac is that he's playing away. But I don't think it's a big problem. Newcastle, as they chase, they're not worried. So I know, and the thing is, Wemo has been talked about a lot. As, oh, we must have. But I don't see many actually captaining him. If he's really that good, why aren't we captaining him instead? I don't see that. I haven't seen that. Maybe you can. I don't know if you have the stats. And Salah, of course, is there because he's always a captaincy option, no matter how low he is. Yeah, and the rest are just irrelevant. We're not really going to consider as top score as goal scorers. Roger there is quite a surprise, but no one's going to go there. It's just a case of hoping, right? Yeah, Vardy there is just come on.
So then simply DC are coming in. It'll be a risk, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty much that's what's the projection for this week. Let's go to our team in. My team is here. Money in the bank 0.4 million, only one free transfer. I've already used all my transfer in game week 33, then I'm free hit in 34. And as you can see, my lineup, Raya in goal, then Munoz, Konza playing Fulham, and then Guardiol, all my backline playing at home. I have Sa, I have KDB, I have Bowen, I have Mo Salah and Rogers, and then I have Isaac and Mr. Mamouche. On my bench is Areola, Mateta, Kibio, and Burn. Thinking not to double up defense into Arsenal, I just spread out and play Konza at my back. Who knows? Villa kept a clean sheet against Fulham, or Konza could pop up a goal. We just don't know. I played Sa over Mateta. I think the feeling is like playing Mateta over Sa, but Sa, if I want to consider the FA Cup run, he's got 2 goals and an assist. He could potentially did that. I think he has more potential in terms of 90 minutes over Mateta. I'm not sure Mateta on penalty anymore. After that, miss again during the FA Cup match against Villa, and he could not play. He could probably not play the full 90 minutes because Nketiah on his wings. But I think the crucial part is who they're going to captain this week. Talking about Mamouche, talking about Isaac, but I'm thinking to just go differentiate and captain Bowen. That's my feeling for now. So what do you think?
Okay. So I guess question is, so you're not I suppose you're not fazed by this whole KDB business, right? But we're gonna find out soon, right? So that's the thing. So you might want to start scanning and while we're doing this as well. So you plan to save the transfer lah, basically.
Yeah, I think so.
It's really tough your front seven. Because you're benching Mateta, but I really can't see anyone except KDB. But of course, between the two, of course, KDB is the better player. So yeah, I have no Kiwi or. No, yeah, I think that's the squad. Between the 15, that's the first 11. That is the best you can. That is the best you should put out really at the moment, unless you get some league team news.
The thing with Bird, that for more on Brentford players, you just never know at home again United. Who knows, right? And I'm gonna focus that next week because there'll be a potential move next week because Brentford gonna play Ipswich, and then Forest gonna play Leicester next week. I think we'll see what happens this week, and next week people will jump to these players for sure, depending on what result this week.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so roll that transfer.
Yep. Let's go to your team. This is your team. Can you just talk to your team?
Okay. So Pope, Munoz, Guardiola, Livramento, Hart. So really, I've got Eze on the bench, and I have made a move actually. So I have Saka is now on my bench, and Eze I have sold, and again for the reasons of I feel that I will want him for the rest of the season, just not for this one, and I've sold Eze. So it was a hard call, but I feel that Mbuemo's potential is higher, so I sold Eze for Mbuemo. So that's basically my change. Mbuemo up to the starting 11 and Saka on the first bench. In terms of captaincy, I've just left it on Salah, although I really feel that Watkins is going to do really well.
I think so,
Liverpool,
man. I think so. Because if you're feeling that, I think that's so, because I think Villa need that win in front of in front of the crowd. And you know Watkins' potential. You know.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm relying on Watkins to cover my Isaac gap because I don't have Isaac, and I can't get Isaac in without taking a hit because I already have 3 Newcastle players there already. So that's it. I guess the only thing is that between Pope and Henderson, do I think Forest will score given how they still demoralized? I'm not sure. So at the moment it's still on Pope. It could change if I want the home game, but then that means I double up on the Crystal Palace defense because I already have Munoz as well. So I need to decide that in the next 8 minutes or so. Yeah. So, but otherwise, that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not going to change my captaincy. Pretty much it's on Salah.
Yep, Mbomo in. I think that's what people are doing now, and you can do that. And your rank is at 57k. I think you just keep track on those moving, and your captaincy on Salah. Yeah, but it would be interesting if you captain somewhere else to like what Watkins. I think I like that move. That's all I can say.
The Watkins move. Okay.
Right. Quickly on the FPL Jedi League. This is the current situation right now. Sukahati is still on top, man. One Kyrie, 93 points. He scored on free hit, and you can see his team on the right side. He has Jose Sa, Livramento, Ad Nuri, TAA. He has Semenyo there, Luis Diaz, Barnes, Mo Salah, Iwobi, and he has Cunha and also Mr. Isaac as his captain. So that's how I think pretty much I think the backline is interesting best. Jose Sa and Anuri deliver, and he's the number 1 right now, and it's going to be tough to catch him now, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the top 10 aside, I just want to put a shout out to this one guy who I think the week before in Game Week 34, in Game Week 33, he entered into the first page of the FPL Jedi League for the first time and is now at number 31, which is you. So well done. I love to see your progress. You're slowly getting there. Yeah, and yeah, it just goes to show, you don't throw in the towel. You just keep on, and start pushing and slowly get there. And yeah, so congratulations, and may you keep climbing and see how far you can get.
Right. Yep. So I want to give a shout out to other team in the top 10 right now. Frantic Nizam at second, Labu FC third. Afosz fall down a bit into 4th place, and Sleepy Jedi. Your guys are keeping.
He's keeping me company. He just dropped for me.
Yeah. Is it like 15, 20 points away? I think you guys just keep that up. I'm not sure what Afosz move will be this week. I'm predicting Mbomo is in his mind, but we shall see what his move will be. 6th place, Meldan Kane, Afi 21, 24, 7, Zach at 8th place, Simpampule move up to 9, and then Afan United fall to 10th place. So those are the FPL Jedi top 10 situation, right? Right. We coming to the end of the stream. Maybe we just pick up 1 or 2 questions from Rakan MPL. He did ask a lot of questions, but we just pick the interesting one. Mbomo or Bowen? I think we pick up both players.
Yeah. Hafiz says Bowen, I have Mbomo. So yeah. So you know where we are.
Yep. Safe captain, Mamush on Bomo. I think Bomo the people are looking at. I'm not sure how many people. I think a lot of players gonna still captain Salah. That's the feeling.
Mbomo, between the two, Mbomo.
Yep. I said to Watkins. Someone who has a Watkins but do not have Isaac. Can we have both?
It's about equal, I think. There's really not much to differentiate between the two.
All right. I think pretty much that. Play Munas or Saliba. Maybe Munas, a potential
Munoz
attacking.
for me. Bournemouth can score and will score.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining the stream. Good luck to everyone in whatever that you're doing this week. Your last word, me.
Yeah. So yeah. Check out Team News 5 minutes, especially for that city, and see if there's anything that makes you change your mind. I feel like staying up to watch the match because it's against Wolves, one of my favorite teams this season.
Yeah.
So So choose your captaincy wisely. I'm really having second thoughts about my captaincy now. So let's see. You're really tempting me into Watkins. So let's see how that goes. All right.
All right. Take care, guys.
Okay. Bye.
And hope to see you in the next stream. Bye bye.
Bye bye.